In this week's Community Build Roundup, we're going to be checking out some garden shades, a lean manufacturing workstation, a garden trellis, a koi pond protector, and another awesome trellis. All kinds of great builds as always. Let's jump right in and check them out. First up, we've got this garden shade. This comes from Tony. This is fantastic. You can see here, they've got, I think, 4 total garden beds. It looks like 2 of the metal ones and then 2 wooden ones there in the back. They basically built 2 different shade structures that kind of shade 2 at one time, which is really cool. And basically we can see here, if we zoom in, that on this one here, there's basically verticals that go up, and those are attached to the outside of the frame, I think using, it looks like Conduit hanger straps, which we have on the website. You can also get locally off the shelf as well. And I think those are just kind of, I don't know if they are using the hole for the panel that connects the 2 panels of the garden bed together, or if they just drilled a new hole and added that there. Regardless, it's a really great method for attaching those, but basically they've got verticals going up attached to the garden beds in a lot of different ways like that. And then basically the verticals just go up and attach to this upper frame, and it's just a rectangular frame up here at the top. As you can see, looks like they use 90-degree connectors in the corners. You can also use T-connectors there to make elbows. That's actually the best way to do it because all 3 of these pipes are really necessary. So, using the 90 and omitting that pipe is not really recommended, but people do it, and I understand why. But you're really supposed to use a T-connector there. But then you've got bracing here with the 45-degree connectors going down to the verticals, just to add some support and bracing, which is always good. And it's pretty simple overall, just a bunch of verticals that go up, and then a rectangular frame made up top with those 90-degree connectors and T-connectors, and then bracing with the 45-degree connectors. So really cool, nice and simple, and a great idea if you're doing garden shades. Thanks so much for sharing that, Tony. Next up is a cool video. This was shared by Austere Manufacturing. They made some kind of workstations using MakerPipe and Conduit, which is really cool. You can do all kinds of lean manufacturing and custom workstations for shops and things with MakerPipe and Conduit. This is really cool. Basically, as you can see, they just used 3/4 inch EMT conduit with various MakerPipe connectors, and they made these shelves that are slanted. And what's really clever is they used some metal studs to make like chutes for hardware. So you can see that the pipes in the back of the shelf are offset from the ones in the front. And then they have these metal studs that are hanging over the pipes and just kind of hooked over the pipes on one end. And then they have the pieces that they're manufacturing there in their shop. They have those on the front just as kind of a label. And then because you can see it's all, pretty small pieces of hardware, they're able to basically drop those down, and it acts as a hardware chute down the frame, which is super slick and just really cool, really clever, and a really great use of materials. We love seeing stuff like this when people are able to optimize their processes and do things around their shop using conduit and connectors and clever things like those metal studs. So really cool. Thanks so much for sharing this, Austere Manufacturing. Love seeing it. Next up, we have this trellis, and this comes from Anil. This is really cool. Basically, you can see there that they've got this fence around their backyard, and they used EMT conduit crossover clamps. And I think they said they've got the conduit basically resting on top of the fence there, and they're using 2-hole straps to secure those. You can imagine kind of over top of the conduit down into the fence to secure those. And they have those, long horizontal pipes coming, and then those attached to the verticals here using crossover clamps, which are great because you don't have to do any cutting. You can just kind of overlap and cross over 2 pieces of conduit. And that's how they secured the horizontal pipe to the verticals. And then basically from there, it's pretty simple. They just have twine attached to the pipes going down into their bucket garden. And they've got some raised garden beds there as well. Really cool, nice and simple. And they shared some alternative ideas. They said, if their neighbors get upset with the conduit being visible on top of the fence, then they can just use some adjustable angle flanges and attach those to the side of the fence here, or using just the rigid flange and kind of lowering the height of these a little bit. There's a couple of different ways that you could kind of get around that if you wanted to move this around, but really cool and nice and simple. Just 3 verticals, 3 horizontals, really just 3 connections with the crossover clamps. And then now they've got a trellis going down to their different plants down there. Really cool. Thanks so much, Anil, for sharing this. We love seeing it. Next up is this koi pond protector, and this comes from Charlie. This is really cool. You can see he's got a beautiful little pond area here with some fish in there. And he said that his grandson likes to reach down and grab the fish, and also some, I think, hens, or I'm sure, any bird of prey probably wants to get these fish. So he made this, really simple two-dimensional rectangle with fencing on it to protect the fish. And he used some off-the-shelf elbows, as you can see there, just the electrical elbows you can get off the shelf. He replaced the actually, I don't know if he did or not, but I always recommend that you replace the set screws with self-drilling screws if you're going to use those fittings from off the shelf. Otherwise, they're going to slip out pretty easily. Just the set screws aren't really the greatest thing for grabbing onto the pipe and securing them. So replacing those with self-drilling screws seems to work well. But then you can see he made the rest of the frame using maker pipe connectors. He's got basically these crossbars that are attached. That is a terrible line. Basically, got these crossbars attached with maker pipe T connectors there and there. And then in the middle, he's got a 180-degree connector, which allows this horizontal span to be continuous. And then the other side basically the two pieces terminate inside of the connector there. He's got the same thing there with the 180, and then, a few different T connectors to kind of attach these pieces of conduit in various points. So, the 4 electrical elbows, and then looks like 2, 4, 6 T connectors and 2 180s to make this simple rectangle. And then he just secured some plastic fencing to the framework. I imagine using zip ties probably works just as well for something like this. And now he's got a little barrier and protector for the fish inside the pond. Super cool. Thanks so much, Charlie, for sharing this. Really great idea, and we love seeing it. Next up is another trellis, and this comes from MV. This is really cool. Basically, they used 1/2-inch EMT conduit, they said, and they used 1/2-inch rebar, which is cool. We've always suggested 3/4-inch rebar with 3/4-inch EMT, and they said they tried 1/2-inch rebar with 1/2-inch EMT, and it works just as well. So basically, they just hammered that into the ground, and then the conduit slides over top of it. That just adds some rigidity to the lower portion of the structure, which is always great. And then the verticals go up, and they have T connectors grabbing on to the vertical that goes up, and then also the horizontal pipe to send this pipe across. And then they used 180-degree connectors to basically add these arms that have a pipe that goes off of each side, and then they attach the tomato hooks to, which is really cool and allows them to it's really smart because you only have that one long pipe that goes down the length of the frame, and then you have these branches that come off. And I think they said this was a 3-branch design, which apparently is really good for increasing your tomato crop yield. So that's really cool. Basically, using the 180s, you could also use crossover clamps to basically add those arms that go across and then attach the tomato hooks. And I couldn't really see close up. It gets kind of blurry if I zoom in too far. But I think they use the same EMT conduit hanger straps that we saw for the garden shade earlier. I think they use those around the pipe, and then the tomato hooks hook onto that. I could be wrong. We've also seen people just get those tomato hooks and then bend one end of it and then hook those around the conduit. So that might work there too. We've seen a few different ways people have done that, which is really cool. And then here's kind of a smaller version of the same frame. We can see, it looks like they have something down. Maybe this is built into this garden bed that has a mount for poles, but the conduit is going up from there and then goes up, and it's the same kind of design where they've got T connectors grabbing onto this pipe that runs all the way across, and they've got 180s to add these branches, and it looks like hanger straps there. I can't really tell. I'd love to know for sure if you're watching MV and you want to share with us. It looks like a good solution, but those things that I mentioned will work well. And really cool, nice and simple. They've got, 2, 4, 6 nets going down, or string, twine going down for the tomatoes to grab onto, just on this small structure, which is really cool. So really awesome idea. Thanks everybody for sharing your builds. As always, these will be linked down below if you want to check any of them out in more detail. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.